fascinating piece today. Chinese graduate school applicants are going through the roof. They want to come to the U.S. The economy may be booming in China, but they want to come study in the U.S. What's going on?
So as the middle class grows in China, more and more people can afford U.S. schools, and they still are considered the gold standard of graduate education, or higher ed in general. So more students can afford to apply. More students want a Western experience before they go back to China. A lot of companies are interested in having somebody who kind of has seen both worlds. So,
and we're talking hundreds of thousands of applications, correct?
Yes, there were a little more than 500,000 international applications to U.S. graduate schools this year.
And we even have charts here and everything, Melissa. So they've been rising steadily. I mean, that's double-digit, 20% or so growth, annual growth. That is tremendous growth in terms of certainly the number of applications to graduate schools. What are they interested in studying? Is it business? Is it engineering? Or is there something more obscure?
Both
Chemistry, biology, I don't know.
I think you've just named them all.
Oh, yeah?
Business, engineering, and earth science are particularly popular. Engineering, a lot of people have engineering undergraduate backgrounds.
Not a lot of demand for PhDs in sociology or English literature.
Not as much. I mean, there is still some, but that's not what they're coming here for.
Right. They're really coming for a skill set or knowledge base, experience, expertise that they can bring back to China and kind of make a good living at.
Absolutely.
Is there any negative connotations? Are schools or politicians here in the U.S., are they unhappy about this, or we welcome them with open arms?
Well, schools are loving it. They're going out and seeking these applicants. It allows them a window into a new market where their executive education programs can find new clients, where they can perhaps find new donors.
Right.
So schools are loving it.
And you mentioned, in fact, one of the universities has a program they've kind of set up in Shanghai that actually brings, it kind of tries to funnel the applicants back to, I forget which school it was.
Ohio State, yeah. And a number of schools have those kind of outpost offices to help coordinate admissions for overseas students.
Right.
Just make the process a little bit easier for them and entice them to apply.
Right. What are the issues? If you're a Chinese graduate student coming here, other than the language and making sure that you're kind of up to speed, what are the other issues? Are there visa issues? I mean, is there a prospect? Can you stay here? I mean, I know for a lot of graduate students, certainly Indian and some from other places in Asia, they go out, especially the West Coast, they want to stay in Silicon Valley. They maybe got a business degree or an engineering degree from Stanford or from Berkeley. They want to stay, maybe build their career. Getting those visas has been hard for them. Is it any different if you're a Chinese graduate student?
It's not, and I can't speak to all disciplines, but I know for business schools specifically, most international students want to stay in the U.S. for at least a few years, get that Western experience, and then go back. But the companies aren't always keen to hire them because the visa issues, it's a headache. Right. They don't need to.
Right, right. Now, what is driving this from the Chinese point of view? Does China just not have similar levels of graduate education?
Not yet, although they're getting better. But it's really only in quite recently that China has invested significantly in its higher education, and a lot of other countries are like this. As they put more money into that, first at the undergraduate level, that means there are more qualified applicants to apply to the top U.S. schools. And then they're putting more money into the graduate programs, and those are beginning to gain an international reputation. Business schools certainly are on the world stage. As those gain in reputation and gain in rank and gain in selectivity, they could potentially become
competitors. Are many of these graduate students sponsored? And what I mean by that is, when I went to business school, which was a couple of decades ago, certainly in my section, my business school section, we had in fact a fair number of international students, but they were very often sponsored. So for example, the Japanese students who were there would have been sponsored by the large Japanese trading companies or large Japanese banks. Are the Chinese graduate students coming here, or are they coming here on their own dime, if you will?
Both. Again, referring to business schools specifically, a significant portion of international students are sponsored, usually somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 from kind of what I've seen at schools. So they are sponsored, they'll come here, get their education, go back to that company. But companies all over the world have cut back on sponsorships, and oftentimes people who are applying to master's programs or PhD programs are coming straight out of undergrad.
Right. Now, of the 500,000 or so applications that were received, I think that was the number you gave, that's been growing, like I said, leaps and bounds, about how many will actually end up enrolling? Is there, 50% attrition rate, or are we talking about most of those people will end up taking a role or a spot in some graduate school here in the U.S.?
We don't know for sure. You know, the schools haven't decided yet who they'll admit. They have to admit some international students, some domestic students, who can pay for it, and we won't know that until the summer. But you can assume that if somebody's bothering to apply to a graduate program, it's a lot of work.
They're going to end up
They're going to make every effort to go there.